All right, hello y'all. This is going to be my value card here. And one thing that I want to try to do this year is to do these little small technique or drawing tutorials so that you guys don't always have to depend on following my instructions when I'm trying to teach a new skill. You can always go back and kind of revisit maybe some of the things that I talked about while I taught y'all a new skill or while I worked on something. So this one, like I said, is going to be a value scale. Remember, we're going to have the shade on one side, which is going to be the darkest part. We're going to have the tint on the other side, which is going to be the lightest part, or just straight white. And then we have 3 grays in between. The middle gray is going to be medium level gray, or like regular gray. This level right here will be what we call dark gray, and then this one right here will be what we call light gray. Okay, so what I've found over my experience is to do the darkest one first, because you have a baseline of how intense at least the darkest one is gonna be. Okay, now to do that, I'm gonna start off with my number 2 pencil right here. Most of you are going to end up using a number 2 pencil, and so I want to use a tool that's going to look similar to what you guys have. And then, as you can see, I'm filling this in as we go. So what you want to do is you want to press down pretty hard. You want to max out the pencil basically, so you want it to get as dark as you possibly can with the pencil that you have. If you have drawing pencils, and I might show you one in just a little bit. If you have drawing pencils and you have what's called a B pencil, that means that that B pencil can get even darker than, let's say, this number 2 pencil, which is kind of like a regular, even sort of medium level pencil, but it doesn't get that dark. And so a drawing pencil is going to be a lot darker. Also, what you want to watch out for is, if you look at my pencil lines, I'm trying to keep them as close as possible. And so while I'm coloring, I'm not going all over the place like this. You could do that if you feel like that's a little bit easier for you, but then you have to make sure and you get into all these little spots. Right now, what's comfortable for me is just to kind of keep my strokes nice and close together and tight, and then that way, I don't have to do too much back and forth. Okay. Now, if you look at it, it's not even. Right, I have this part right here that's a little bit lighter, and then where they overlap it's darker. By itself it's lighter, where they overlap it's darker. You want this whole thing to be one even level. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my direction a little bit. I'm going to go diagonal. The other thing you could do is maybe turn the whole thing, if this is more comfortable, and work this way like that. So yeah, I guess that feels a little bit more comfortable. I don't have to move my hand too much. Again, you want to max out the pencil. You want it to be as dark as you can make it. So I'm going over it like this. Now let me show you, we can compare that to a drawing pencil. These are some of the ones that I have in class. This is, if you look at that number and letter right there, let's see if, there we go. So that's a 6B, so that's a darker B level pencil. And if I work on this side, you can see that it's significantly darker than the regular pencil that I have there, right? Looks a lot more intense. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one for the rest of it. If you see those 2 little squares right there, that's because I put 2 pieces of tape under my card here so it doesn't move around. Alright, so I'm going to keep working on this, and then I'll check back in after I'm done. Okay, so I finished the darker side right here, the darkest shade. Now what you want to do, most people might tell you get lighter as you go, but if you make a mistake on the second one, that means that it's going to mess up the whole thing. So what I like to do is, after I do this darkest one, this one's going to stay white because it's my tint, so I'm going to leave this one alone. And then what I want to do is I want to try to figure out this medium one. So what you want to do is figure out what regular gray is supposed to be, and then that'll help you figure out what dark gray is and then what light gray is. So here I'm sort of filling this one in. I'm not trying to press down as hard as I possibly can because I'm not trying to make my shade, I'm not trying to make black. What I'm trying to do is just make a nice even gray. Also, I'm turning my pencil a little bit. So if you saw me earlier, I was pressing down really hard like this at the end of the pencil. Now I'm holding it kind of back over here because I don't have to use as much pressure and I just want it to be a softer level, all right? If you can see, I'm still keeping my lines close together, my strokes close together like that. And I'm just sort of filling in the space for right now. I'm not trying to make it as dark as I can. Okay. Now again, you want the whole section to be one level. Right here, for whatever reason, I maybe hit a rough patch under the paper, so it looks a lot darker. So I'll have to fix that later, or I'll just have to even it out. It just depends. Now, what I want to do right now is look at it, okay? This is supposed to be my gray. Let me compare it to the black and to the white. I have to ask myself, is this a middle spot between super dark and white? And if I kind of study it and look at it, it seems like it could be a little bit more intense. I have this side right here that just feels like it's a little bit darker than that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in this one just a little bit more. You always want to check your work, and you always want to look at, you always want to pay attention to it. You always want to look at it while you're working on it. And it's okay to take like a little break just to check things, and then you go back to it. Does it need to be lighter? Does it need to be darker? Okay, so I think, let's see, just a tiny bit more. Okay, and I think I'm happy with that. Let me try to fix this spot right here. I'm going to lightly use my eraser. All right, and I don't know why that spot got darker. It just did. So that's pretty good for right now. I think if I do too much more, I might make it too dark. So I'm pretty happy with that. Once you have regular gray, that's going to help you a lot because right here, you do the same thing. You find the balance between black or shade and regular gray. So there's like a medium dark or a dark gray. And then right here, same thing. You have to find the balance between gray and white. So this one's going to be a really light level. It's not going to be white, but it'll be a really light level. It has to be lighter than this one, right? So let me start off here. I'm going to give it some pretty good intensity, but I don't want to give it too much because, again, I don't want it to be as dark as my shade or my black right there. All right, it should look different than both of them. It should be an in-between.